Namaskar, welcome to another episode. So happy to be here with Utpal ji. Utpal ji, namaskar. Congratulations for this book, Eminent Distorians, Twists and Truths in Bharat's History, published by Blue Wing. Received a lot of praise already. Amish Tripathi ji has written, Arvind Sharma ji, David Frawley sahab, Sanjeev Sanyal ji writes about, in his fast-paced style, Utpal Kumar recounts the twist that led to a particular twisted narrative, the characters and their shadowy motivations, and finally how Indian history is being clawed back from colonial, Marxist and Nehruvian biases. Congratulations for this book.
Thank you very much.
Before we delve further, introduce the book to us. So introduce the book to the readers. Because like I was telling you earlier, na, कि थोड़ा होता है मतलब for the last 10 years, we are witnessing slowly, gradually that there have been many twisted tales and narratives in our history reading and the way history has been taught to us. In fact, Sanjeev ji, speaks about it time and again that that's an African proverb which says, "Until the lions have their own storytellers, the story of the hunt or the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." So I think that is perhaps what we're looking at for the last 10 odd years or so. Thanks to the new government, thanks to Prime Minister Modi, because he's sitting there at the helm, ensuring that a space is provided for alternative retelling of the history. Because had that not, been the, situation, तो ये बोलना ये लिखना ही इतना बड़ा चैलेंज होता है. इनफैक्ट इसी तरह से भी इसी ना मॉडर्न many new publishers are coming out, many new voices are coming out because वो पहले space ही नहीं मिल रहा था. Tell us a bit about the book. Tell us a bit about how it happened, why it happened, what was the motivation.
First of all, thank you. Thanks a lot. It's my honor to be here. The book, Eminent Distorians, looks at the distortions of Indian history, not just done by the colonial our masters, but most important by our own historians post-independence, who were inspired by Nehruvian idealism or leftist ideologies. The book, in a way, also tribute to Arjun Singh's book, Eminent Distorians. Many people see the connection there, and I'll be honest to say that it is kind of a tribute to him. What I have tried to do here was that I have been very honest to say that these people who claim to be historians are actually Distorians. The way they have distorted the country, on every aspect of the country's life, whether it's starting from Vedic period till India got independence, everything was twisted and turned. And today, if you see the country, the history of this country, it's hardly from the perspective of Bharat. It's still written from the perspective of foreigners, unfortunately invaders. So this book tries to do that. Initially, it talks about it shares few anecdotes about the eminent historians, whether it's as Gopal or Bipin Chandra or
But
Thapar.
Before we jump onto these bunch of historians, what do you think is their motivation? Why did they do it? What were they trying to do? Who were they trying to praise or satisfy, or
See, I think they never tried to hide their goal. They always behaved and believed in their ideologies first. So their ideology was communism. They always looked at classless society ideals. So for them, the Sanatan tradition was the biggest roadblock in that. So and that's where the distortions come in.
So why? So you're arguing that it was politically
It is
motivated.
political. It's always political.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And these historians, like you call, and we'll discuss about them in detail. They wanted to become politicians, or they were part of this larger communist movement across the world which was happening, and they were some way a fringe element of it.
They didn't want to go into politics, but ultimately communism is, if you see, their ultimate goal is to capture power. Howsoever noble their ideology may sound. These historians try to create, bolte हैं हिंदी, माहौल, environment, milieu for that. And they want to project that whatever good is there in this country, this has come from the outside. And there is nothing good per se in the Sanatan tradition, Hindu tradition. This country has nothing of its own also. In fact, they start from the story from the Vedic culture and they say that, oh, they came from outside. Then everyone came from outside. So
but they
this country was like a barren territory, which unfortunately, when you see the geography and topography, this is one of the most beautiful terrain in the world. And according to our historians, it's like it's a barren territory where no one lived. Everyone came from outside.
But then, where were they getting this political patronage from? Because in 1947, India became a republic, and as the preamble called us, we became a religion, we became a secular. In fact, all those words were also added later in the preamble. But our constitution, apart from the preamble, it ensured that there are rights and consequently the duties as well. So the scope of doing this for these historians to go about their jobs, वो कहाँ से आ रहा था? Where were getting their political patronage from? Because something like this, the kind of lies that you exposed in the book, they cannot happen without an ecosystem or without a system supporting them. So where was that coming from?
Exactly. See, when India was born as a free country in 1947, trust me, we had a bunch of historians who were nationalists in the outlook, who were genuinely historians. If you read the qualification a historian needs from the perspective of Jodhpur Sarkar, most of our eminent historians will even disqualify there. For instance, Jodhpur Sarkar, while talking about somebody who wants to write a history in medieval India, he would ensure that the guy know Persian, Urdu, Arabic, so that he had the first-hand access to the original this thing. By that record, Rabindranath Thakur also doesn't qualify to be a historian because he doesn't know Sanskrit. So at that time, R.C. Memdar and Jodhpur Sarkar, they reached out to the government. R.C. Memdar has, this is on record, he talks in his own book in forward that, he reached out to the government of India, said that it's time that, we come out with the history which from the perspective of this country. He actually reached out. He first reached out to the Education Ministry. There was no word from them. Then he reached out to the President of India, then President of India, Rajendra Prasad. And Rajendra Prasad was very happy. He really wanted this to happen. And then I think no one knows, but I think my assumption that through his influence, I think, ultimately, Education Ministry relented. Education Ministry under Maulana Azad relented, and he was allowed. A board was formed where he was heading it in the editorial capacity. But unfortunately, that couldn't last long.
The project?
Yeah, that project. In fact, because, the government, there was a chairman or somebody was there, with the main person. He was a government employee. He was a Congress politician. Now, the politician started back then. People today talk about, that saffronization is happening. It is happening since then, and politics and history go hand in hand, unfortunately. So that gentleman wanted history to be set in a certain way, the way government wanted at that time, and R.C. Memdar has issues with that. R.C. Memdar says that even howsoever uncomfortable or discomforting the fact may be, it should not be touched upon if it is right. I mean, Jodhpur Sarkar also believed that. These people wanted to twist that. So then what happened that board was dismantled, and again after 1 year or 2 years, a new board was formed in which R.C. Memdar doesn't find a place for himself, and that board was headed by Tarachand, who was a kind of very pro-Congress in the outlook, and then under his leadership, History of India was written that was pro-Nehruvian and pro-leftist in the outlook. So things started like that. But it didn't mean that we have historians at that time who wanted to do that. But when Indira Gandhi came, mid-60s, late 60s, things turned completely, in a left way.
Why did that happen?
Because, Indira Gandhi needed the support of the left to survive. And that was used by left wing to promote. They captured all the institutions of this country. In fact, a book by somebody who was very much part of the kitchen cabinet of Indira Gandhi all those years, by Raj Thapar. His husband was Ramesh Thapar. They both were part of the Indira's cabinet kitchen. She talks about how people were appointed in all these institutions, and it was absolutely nothing to do with merit.
Thapars were communists? Or they were opportunists?
Raj Thapar was absolutely, if you read her book, and even her husband, they were leftists and very hardcore, so they were not opportunists. And that's why they could be so critical of Indira. Like in 1975 emergency, they fell out with Indira Gandhi when they thought that she is going to dictatorial way. So her book is very graphic account of how things ran then, and it was ideology was the reason But in that place, the appointment was made just like one person was appointed an ambassador of a place precisely because he was ideologically closer to the dispensation. And while the two persons are discussing that person is a fool, in as many ways they're discussing, but वो बंदा तो वो बेवकूफ है, but he is a communist. So this is how things were.
So what you're arguing is that right after independence, there were historians who were trying and making an attempt to write the right history of India.
Yes.
However, politically, they were not given any
Yes,
patronage or even any support for that matter.
Exactly.
And that support necessarily came from all the, the historians or academics and intellectuals who were communists in their mind, in their ideas.
Yeah.
And their intention, their end goal was all political.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, grab the power. So basically, you're arguing that communists are working on a, working with a multi-pronged strategy where they want to capture academic institutions and intelligentsia so that they're able to, tweak the minds of the next generation.
Exactly.
And at the same time, they're working towards their political, movements and so on and so forth.
They work on a very long-term project. The long-term project of any communist movement is to capture the power. Power is the ultimate goal for them.
But Sanatan has a longer, long-term vision. What would you say?
Maybe that's why it survived.
Okay.
Sanatan tradition is the only civilization which is not in the museum right now, precisely for that reason that it is very adaptable, it is very, it can mend its ways and it can survive any rough storm. But that doesn't mean that we should be just not do anything about to safeguard it. I mean, we have to safeguard it because we have lost quite a lot of ground already. But yes, we survived.
Well, I think I'll take up, after this break, I'll perhaps take up the question of India's geography to begin with. And then let's connect the dots as they go through, as it go through the Indian time scale. Thank you very much, Utpalji. Thank you very much for introducing the book, Eminent Historians, to us. And more to come shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.